we can wrap up, Keith, and talk about Sheffield United. Talking of rules, now looks like they're going to face and will be facing a points deduction ahead of next season for failure to pay transfer fees. What are your thoughts around that for them?
Well, look, it's I think it was around £8 million was the sort of things that were the level of non-payments, etc., and delayed payments. The bigger point, it isn't so much this one, but the bigger point about this is everybody's got to realise this is a very, very dangerous thing. If everybody remembers back to like 2008 with the world financial crisis and Lehman Brothers collapsed, that caused contagion. And the word contagion could apply to this in football. Because if one of the bigger clubs does fall and they stop paying the transfer fees, all the clubs it'll go down like dominoes in terms of the way that will go through football. So the principle is very important. And I know they've got a 2-point deduction, but there's also 2 suspended to make sure that they're going to be carrying on doing this properly for next year. It's a very big issue. And to me, that's more important than some of these sustainability breaches, is the fact that clubs are actually paying each other on the transfer fees that they've arranged. And so it seems to be a small one. It's very clear cut, but it's one that people should be paying attention to.
Are the owners to blame, Keith? Can they blame anyone but themselves? Are they definitely in the driving seat for this problem?
It seems to be. It must be cash flow issues for whatever reason. It does happen in business, of course. We understand that. But it's very clear, as I said, the danger is very big. If clubs stop paying each other, then we'd be, all over the place. I mean, I had the same issues with Italian clubs when I was at Everton that refused to pay. We had to go to FIFA tribunals and the whole thing. It becomes a real issue because you forecast for those payments to come in, and they don't come in. Then all of a sudden, your own budget is out of whack. So it's a very, very serious issue. Don't let the scale of it fool you. I mean, yes, it was Sheffield United with 8 million this time, which isn't going to break the bank. But if a bigger club that maybe owed 100 to 200 million to the football family, it would be a big problem.
And what will their aims be next season, Keith? If they are to get relegated, I mean, unfortunately, it looks like they probably will be. They start next season on -2 points. Could they get promoted? Are they likely to come straight back up? Or actually, do you think that could have quite a serious knock-on the squad going into the following season?
I think that they should have a chance to come back up again. They got the parachute payments. I know they're still trying to negotiate new ownership. They haven't been successful yet, but I still believe at a championship level, then United is a good asset to look at acquiring. Trying to buy it at Premiership level was a little bit of a stretch because they didn't really have that security in the Premier League. But certainly buying it at the Championship levels, which like Bournemouth, I believe, went for about 120, 130 million. At that sort of price, with the assets that Sheffield United have, the squad that's there, I think they've got a great chance of coming up. So it may give a new owner a chance to get an asset that has a real opportunity at the right price.
Do you feel for a really passionate fan base like Sheffield United, where actually it's clear that the owner wants to sell? I mean, quite a similar position to Everton, really, but actually, unfortunately, of course, were placed under a transfer embargo in January. They haven't really spent very much. I mean, they've obviously struggled in the Premier League. Do you feel for their fan base?
I don't know if I feel for them, because I think they understand that the owner's admitted that he has not got the deep pockets to play the Premiership game. So I think he's been very honest, and I think they've appreciated that from what I understand. So it's better that an owner comes out and says, look, I need to sell because I want you to have a more successful club. So I think the fans appreciate that, and he's certainly given it a good go. But look, it's a great asset, it's a great club, but I think it needs to have an owner with deeper pockets, as he has said. And if they can do that, then hey, Sheffield United can still carry on and go forward.
And to kind of wrap up, Keith, are you finding all these deductions and sanctions quite remarkable, really? They're all starting to come to light. And actually, why do you think this is all happening now over the last, say, few weeks or months, really? We've seen so many clubs sanctioned by the Premier League. And the EFL, what's the reason for that?
Well, I don't know if you remember that Richard Masters recently put a Premier League advert in one of the political magazines talking about unintended consequences about a football regulator. And I think what you're just saying just now about all these things happening in the last few weeks are unintended consequences of a badly thought out sanctioning regime. of the clubs themselves who voted for it, that it should be no tariff, that they wanted independent regulators. But I still maintain, having the experience of being on the Premier League board, that the Premier League itself should have said, look, we need to resolve, if we're going to govern the game for you and govern this club of 20 clubs, we've got to give a tariff, we've got to give more certainty. And they should have been there pointing it out to the clubs who may have all been voting in self-interest. And it's always the Premier League's job to try and be the referee and get to the right solution rather than allow clubs to vote in self-interest. So I think still it's a function, an unintended consequence of badly thought out methods, and it's coming home to roost in a big way, as we all know.
Are you worried then for the future of the Premier League potentially, or actually do you think that there will be some changes, as we know, going into next season, say with FFP and PSR, that actually will then impact the game enough so that there are changes that are to be made?
Well, again, it's got to be thought through properly, and they've got to model a lot of scenarios. I don't know whether it will allow all the clubs to get a bigger level before a breach. Certainly, I believe that inflation should be taken into account, and that there should be, football wages, players' wages have not stopped going up in the last 10 years. And I think it's been that long since PSR was supposed to be put in place, or however many years it is. Still, it's got to be, the breaches have got to be kept in pace with the football inflation that's going on. Player wages, the price being paid for clubs, all those sort of things need to be taken into account. I haven't seen the full detail yet in terms of this UEFA situation. There's still time for it to be changed, tweaked, and I hope that those clubs are now fully focused before the summer meeting, and there's work being done right now on making sure we have a really workable situation, because it's about time all of us stop talking about these things.